Friends, artists, and entrepreneurs, I am Abhinav Sankar bringing you the greatest stories and journeys. Here are the most interesting, successful, unbelievable, emotional, and educational stories. The Abhinav Show, India's Curious Stories. Stay curious. Technology is evolving. That's no question. The question is, are we too? When I was a kid, I saw floppies, and then came CDs and then hard drives, and today's kids see only clouds. We saw radios, telegrams, posts, alarm clocks, and today all they see is a smartphone. Art makes you fly, your girlfriend makes you cry, and what if I say science makes you shy? How stupid is that? I'm about to tell you a real incident which happened to me. I was once going on a bus where I encountered four different aged women together. The old woman in the bus was actually the very talkative one who actually talked with everyone possible. You were the conductor, the person who came nearby, who person who stepped on her foot and walked by, everyone. And the other two women were a mother and a daughter, and they had a huge age difference where, the little girl was very little, where she was actually like 5 to 6 years old. And there was another woman who was sitting beside me. She was wearing her headphones, and you guess who she is? She's a teenager. When these four women were around me, I noticed that this old woman was the most talkative. She actually had so much interest in gossip, just like a typical woman. And on the other hand, the mother and the little daughter. The old woman asked the little girl, "Hey, what's your name?" And the mother answered, "Her name is this." The old woman again asked, "Hey, what standard are you studying?" And the mother answered, "Well, she's going to third grade." Well, when did the little girl speak? Mothers have these problems. They don't let their kids express their views. And the old age have another problem. They don't stop talking. After some time, the bus came to a stop where a few people got out and a few people got in, and the girl beside me actually wanted to drop, but the bus took off. She didn't have the courage to scream and say stop. She stood there blabbering something. Her hands were shivering, her legs were shivering. She was just holding on to the pole and she was showing her hand, and nobody noticed her, just except the old woman. She stood up immediately and she said stop, and the bus stopped. And the old woman looked at the young woman and said, "Don't you have voice to say stop?" And the old woman saw the young woman and said, "Don't you have the courage to say stop?" And the teenage girl was so embarrassed that she put her head down and walked out of the bus immediately. Science makes you shy. Really. The perspective. Mothers are the best friends, caretakers, first love, and the barriers to every kid. The old generation is, of course, the most talkative generation. And the teen generation gets too much into gadgets, new technologies, and they lose themselves. I would say the young generation in India or all around the world, they are actually cybots. They are living another world inside technological world. For example, social media. Have you seen any teenager without a social media? And if, of course, even I do have one. Well, you guys or we are living another world inside. We say what we eat, we say what we do, we say what to do, and we take information from a social media and try to act according to it. If you find a person or a teenager and they say, "No, I'm not on social media," you see them as primitive as Stone Age, don't you? Well, I was a writer back then. I never used to talk, and once I started telling stories, it was bliss. And today's kids who are led to speak out are actually the ones who have an higher advantage on the battleground called Earth. For example, there is a statistic study made by some university, I don't know. They took two people, one being the smartest and the other one who knows to talk well. These two people were put before a crowd who were interested to listen about some topic, and the smart guy was an expert in that. He said he gave a lot of information, he spoke a lot about that. People were interested. And later came the other guy, did not give so much information, but he had a lot of humor in his talks. Eventually, the speech ended, and when people were questioned who is most smart, ironically, people went to the second person. You know why? Because it's not humor, it's not just humor. If you know how to talk, where to talk, and what to talk, you eventually have the higher advantage of being the smartest person. I say kids today should be given the space to explore their ideas through speech. 2. Words have the power to do anything. If scriptures were right, the God said, "Let there be light," and the fusion reaction between atoms took place and the sun formed. Hey, you just heard the whole story. Thank you. Let me know your comments and suggestions. Stay connected with me for more exciting stories. Thank you and stay curious.